Simone, tu stai registrando?
Sì.
Ok, perché io non posso ancora.
Okay.
Ok.
We are ready.
Okay,
Please,
so
Alessio.
thanks very much. Thanks very much to our VIP, MEP Sven Giegold, for his attendance at this webinar. Mr. Giegold is a German and Green MEP in the European Parliament, a member of the important Economic Affairs Committee. Excuse me. And above all, he has launched a very interesting initiative in the last month concerning a dialogue between Italy and Germany in a very sensitive time for the European Union. We often said that, but this time is very true in the light of the epidemic and the recovery fund process negotiation in Brussels. But I will give the floor to Francesco Gui, who is history professor at La Sapienza in Rome, a coordinator of the network that is hosting this webinar. Francesco, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Alessio, for coordinating this web seminar. And I have very appreciated your initiative, Honorable Giegold, with this dialogue, German-Italian dialogue. The Honorable has disappeared. No, now I see you again. Perfect. And I hope that we can start a cooperation, a collaboration with you, and the fact that you are in the parliament could be useful to promote initiatives. 2 years ago, we have promoted the initiative to commemorate the first time when the Europeans spoke about the United States of Europe. I mean the Geneva Congress of 1867, and we commemorated this in the parliament. But other days of the European culture could be organized in the European institution, for instance. Anyway, I won't go too much along, but I hope that you are ready to cooperate with us or to dialogue with us, because we are all, if I can use this German word, Spinelli's Jünger. So most of us are of Federalist culture, and we would like to promote together all Europeans, not just Italian Federalists, but European Federalists, a long way towards the European unity, political unity. Well, I'll stop here. Please, we'll pose you some questions in order to understand each other, if we share or not more or less the same ideas. Umberto Morelli, he's professor at Turin University, and he promotes many initiatives on European culture and history. Please, Umberto.
Thank you, Francesco. Good morning, Mr. Giegold. The first question concerns the federal Europe. The European Union is the result of a compromise between supranationalism and intergovernmentalism, and is a hybrid institution, no longer intergovernmental, but not yet federal, that nowadays doesn't work any longer because of the polycrisis. To surmount the crisis, a federal Europe is needed in my mind. That to say, political union, abolition of the right of veto, the Commission as an effective government, Parliament endowed with full legislative and control powers, enhanced competencies to manage macroeconomic and fiscal policy, migration, reduction of inequality, environment, employment, foreign security and defense policies, and new own resources that render the European Union independent of national governments. Is a federal Europe utopian? The agreements unanimously approved by the member states to solve the crisis are passed off as pragmatic and feasible, but are achieved on the basis of a minimum common denominator incapable of providing an effective response to the crisis. The solution's effectiveness must be assessed on its problem-solving capacity, rather than on its acceptability to states. As Spinelli noted, the task of politics is not to do what is possible, but to make possible what is right in order to change reality. What do you think about a federal Europe?
First, first, thanks for the invitation. And indeed, I initiated this campaign. We are in this together because I was shocked by the deterioration of the Italian-German relationship in the framework of first the financial crisis and now the Corona crisis. I think that what I had to read from Italy, what is being said about what Europe does, what Germany does, the anti-German rhetoric, which I've heard over the last years on the one hand, and what I had to hear in Germany, culturalizing with very bad anti-Italian stereotypes, the situation in Italy. I was really shocked. And when I saw then the high support of a part of the Italian population to leave not the Euro, but the European Union, I thought we need more civil society-based voices which try to counter such a deterioration of two key member states of the European Union. And so we launched the appeal. We had solidarity events in front of Italian embassies in Germany. We had a series of large webinars, and now we are asking together with lots of professors of economics in Italy and Germany for a zero tolerance approach to money laundering and financial crime. So there are so many things we can share. And me personally, look, I belong to the same club. I'm a board member of the Spinelli group in the European Parliament, so which is in favor of a federal Europe. I'm a member of the Organization of German Federalists, the Europa Union, which has more than 20,000 members in Germany, with the objective of a federal Europe. I have to say, where I would nuance a bit what you were saying, Umberto, is the following. I think there is a wrong hesitation by us federalists to try to build a federal Europe on the rhetorical ruins of the existing Europe. What I mean with this is, we first say everything is not working. There's only stalemate. We need to give the parliament powers which it already has. So for instance, what you are saying when it comes to climate change, but also many other areas, the European Parliament is already very powerful. It has already these federal powers. We don't have to fight for these powers because we have them already. And then there's, of course, a political question. How important do you find certain policies? And that's a question of majorities. But I'm deeply convinced that as federalists, we have to defend and celebrate with honor and pride what Europe has already achieved, as my colleague is doing with showing the European flag. Or we have to celebrate what we have to do. We may not let people like Beppo Grillo and others dance on the ruins of what he did. We have to defend what we achieved, and in order to go towards something which I would rather call a federal European Republic. I do not like this term of the United States of Europe because it sounds as if the United States is our role model. And in these days, it should be even less our role model than before, for obvious political reasons. So we should build on the European experience of the Republic. But we should always stress that we do not want centralism. We want a federal republic where local competences are honored, where national competences are honored, but where the things which are of large common interests, like the common market, also more social redistribution, where this is organized on a European level. And there I agree with all what you were saying about the institutional setup. But we will only get there if we speak more positively about what we have already achieved, and we celebrate this rather than being on the defensive. And this is the way how the German Greens, we are clearly the most federalist party in Germany, how we won in the European elections, because we didn't talk negatively about Europe. We talked about hope. We said where we want to go, but based on what we already achieved. And what really hurts me, if I hear in Italy that so many federalists are not able anymore to fight back against all those who want to win on the national level by talking negatively about what Europe already did. We have to be much more proud, and we have to be together. That's my conviction.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Very, very interesting answer. That raises some other questions, but I would like to let Fabio Masini first ask him these questions, as he reserved the spot. Fabio Masini is a professor as well in Rome and founder of Euractiv Italy, new born, let's say, website on European information. Fabio, please.
Maybe now it's better. Okay, you can hear me? Okay, great. Thanks for the invitation to this webinar. Let's talk about the Green Deal. We are all aware that the Green Deal is a huge opportunity for the economic and social development of the whole Europe. At the same time, we are also aware that the green transition, in a way, may be accompanied by distributive risks and social threats. What do you think should be the relevant measures for the Green Deal, in terms of investment expenses, revenues, and which are the conditions that must be met to limit the negative socioeconomic impact of the Green Deal? Thanks.
Yes. I believe, first of all, that the Green Deal goes much deeper than what we normally discuss. So there is now a certain tendency to believe greening our way of life means simply investing more money. I think that's a quite one-sided view. So we will have to change the way how we produce and consume. Changing this is quite profound. And it's interesting to see that, again, in Italy and Germany were the two countries in Europe where our kids protested the loudest. Fridays for Future was big in Italy, it was big in Germany, and it shows that the young generation is ready to change. And we have no time anymore. And that means when Europe acts on climate change, this is not only about new investment programs. I would put it like old-style social democratic answer. This is also about limiting the emissions. So that means we need to set annual budgets for CO2 emissions. And they have to be reduced every year so that we become climate neutral as soon as possible. We have for this to set rules for the different polluting sectors, like cars, which is an important subject in Germany, the production of power, but also chemical industry, and the way how we insulate our buildings. So we have to invest indeed, and there are interesting federalist approaches, like the project of a truly European railway high-speed system. I say that I think this is something what we need as an alternative to airplanes, but still being able to travel Europe fast and green. And therefore, I believe that it's true, it's a big investment effort, and there has to be a strong redistributive element, because those regions which are highly dependent on polluting and climate unfriendly sectors need support in order to build a new future, so that we do not see regional despair. But that has to, therefore, we welcome that there is now, with the recovery fund on the European level, based on grants, and as German Greens, we support this strongly, that there is an element to help regions to invest in their future. But we should not let fool ourselves by old-style productivist models to think it's only about spending money. Our way of mobility, our way of consumption will have to change. And that means this is much more than an investment program, even if that investment program is needed.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. And now we have a question of Professor Rossi of the Federazione Unitaria Italiana Scrittori, the Italian Federation of Italian Writers. Please, Professor Rossi.
That much Italian I learned for my 7 years of Latin. So
But that's history. So.
Compliment.
Grazie
it's our
mille.
common culture. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bene, bene. Grazie mille di questa opportunità di poter interloquire. Io parlo in italiano perché sono italiano.
This I understood, but when it's getting more complex.
Va bene,
translate.
parlerò semplice. Va bene. Ovviamente sono un po', tengo alla dimensione degli scrittori italiani nel momento in cui si collegano con tutto il mondo. Tant'è vero che noi stiamo lanciando insieme a una struttura mondiale, International Author Forum, una serie di rapporti che riguardano gli elementi fondamentali e i diritti naturali. Però oggi mi piace parlare delle nostre iniziative che riguardano l'Europa. La prima di queste iniziative è quella legata alla proprietà intellettuale. Abbiamo promosso un'iniziativa per vedere di fare una ricognizione culturale, non giuridica, culturale, per quanto riguarda tutte le legislazioni dei vari paesi europei in merito al diritto d'autore e proprietà intellettuale. Stiamo partendo per questo, abbiamo fatto già un primo tentativo, stiamo partendo per vedere di fare un panorama complessivo. Questa è la prima ipotesi di lavoro che noi stiamo portando avanti. La seconda è quella legata al prossimo anniversario di Dante Alighieri nel 2021, dove vorremmo portare gli scrittori italiani in Europa, fare un giro per l'Europa, legati a quelle che sono alcune dimensioni che quest'autore Dante Alighieri ha portato avanti, che sono legate fondamentalmente anche ai suoi testi, ai suoi trattati, come dire, in qualche modo politici, come il De Monarchia. Ma il dato importante è che sia un tentativo, pur partendo dall'Italia, per mettere insieme gli scrittori europei. Il terzo di questi progetti è la proposta che abbiamo fatto all'EUNIC, cioè la struttura europea, c'è un EUNIC globale, degli istituti di cultura dei vari paesi europei, di fare un sito comune perché non c'è, in modo tale che ogni paese possa dire delle sue iniziative culturali, ma possa anche fare iniziative congiunte. Queste sono le 3 proposte in questo momento che gli scrittori italiani portano avanti per quanto riguarda l'Europa. Poi ce ne abbiamo altre che riguardano l'universalità. Come sapete, per gli scrittori i confini non possono essere di nessun genere, e non ci sono confini da sempre, e soprattutto perché gli scrittori praticano i principi dell'universalità. Ecco, questo in breve, detto molto in breve, le nostre ipotesi di scrittori. Non so se ho parlato troppo veloce, ma insomma, anche perché adesso dicendo, noi potremmo anche votare perché gli italiani sono in maggioranza.
Sorry, I was lost after the first question. The first question I got. The second, I had no chance. Perhaps the translation would be good.
Can I translate? Can I translate?
Please.
Very shortly. The Unitary Federation of Italian Writers represents the interests of those who practice a professional activity in the field of writing. It has advanced some proposals. The first one is to promote a research on intellectual property, which, considering the individual laws and the regulation of each country, can prepare an overall framework for a European legislation or intellectual property, with the aim of promoting cultural unity among Europeans. This is the first proposal. The second proposal, in 2021, the FUIS, in the occasion of the 700th anniversary of Dante Alighieri's death, will carry out a series of initiatives in collaboration with Italian European scholars to enhance Dante as a common heritage of European society. Dante's writing De Monarchia, I can add that he wanted the German emperor to be the emperor of Europe, and the emperor came from Luxembourg, like Juncker, so it was already, it was an European society. Well, allora, the Monarchia believed in the cultural and political unity of Europe. It will opportunity for reflection among Europeans on the cultural foundation of the Union. We would be pleased if you also attended a meeting together with the other scholars, if you have time. And I can add also that I would like to, I will propose President Sassoli to organize once a year the Day of European Culture. If you agree to commemorate to all the Europeans, because we are dependent on the others. There is not an Italian culture, a German culture for itself. Yeah, there is also, but we, the contribution comes from all countries, and we must be aware of this also in the schools. Anyway, the third proposal is to create a common site in Italy for the cultural institutes from different countries that are in Italy in order to promote common initiatives. These are the three proposals. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I have to say a priori, I'm not a cultural person. I'm an economist. Don't forget that I'm an economist. So of course, economics and culture is perhaps the strongest opposition you can imagine. Of course, artists have made a huge contribution in a reflection over the economy. But I have to say that, yeah, I would say that. So there are great contributions by artists in order to think about the absurdities of modern society from an economic perspective. But that is another matter. So I'm not a person who devotes his time into cultural projects. I don't, and I've learned one thing in European politics, and I'm very honest about it. I will never, normally politicians try to please everyone who comes with a certain idea and so on. But I have learned one thing, I have to concentrate on my missions. And my mission is to make the European economy yield to what the common good. And this is what I'm working for. So you can cooperate with me in fighting the mafia, fighting financial crime, regulating banks. This is what interests me and where I devote my time. And beyond that, we have had a cultural exchange in the period of in the framework of our We Are in This Together with writers from Italy and writers from Germany. That was highly interesting and appreciated, and we will continue with this. What you're saying, where I have a certain competence, is of course the what?
Yeah, Mr. Giegold, I think we have a little issue with your audio.
Oh,
Yeah, the last part of your answer was a bit shaky.
bizarre.
Now it looks better, actually. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe it was a connection issue. So you can continue.
Okay.
Please continue.
Yeah. So I'll start. I'll say, in the framework of our initiative, we are in this together. We had a large web-based discussion between writers in Italy and in Germany, which was a really fruitful exchange. But where of what you were saying, where I have competence, is of course the question of the protection of intellectual property rights. And there, I think this is a truly important question in periods of digitalization. There is a danger that our heritage is digitalized. It's already being digitalized, and the profits are not made by those who produced the content, but by those who offer it to the digital space. This is something where Europe has to react, while respecting always one principle. In the past, open access to knowledge and information was a driver of progress. And this may not be lost because of an extensive regulation of copyright laws. So digitalization has to respect both. It has to respect the income streams of those who produce intellectual property, but at the same time organize open access to the knowledge so that we can learn from each other and profit from each other. And that is something very important. From an economic perspective, knowledge has an opportunity cost of zero. So this a marginal cost of zero. So this means if knowledge has been produced, that somebody else is using it, doesn't cost anything. So it's a free, therefore, ideally, it should be a free good. But then you exploit the person who has produced the respective piece of knowledge, to which, of course, also cultural goods belong. And therefore, we need a good system of publicly organized compensation for those who produce knowledge, and always, in particular, in fields where this creates learning opportunities, the state has to organize the open access while still compensating those who produce the knowledge. And this is something where Europe could become very much active, while I doubt a bit that the right way is to simply ensure that nobody can get access without paying, because then you destroy the economic benefit of the information by limiting the access to it. And that is an interesting debate on the economics of information, which was, of course, hotly debated around the copyright law directly before the European elections, and where many young people said, we want to have open access. We do not want that Europe destroys the principle of open access to fight Google and others. I think we should fight Google without destroying the open access.
Thanks very much. Now I'll ask to Simone Quozzo, who is the secretary of the section of Rome of the European Federalist. I think, Simone, you have to read an answer of a person who is not here.
Yes, I will read two questions from Mrs. Giulia Rossolillo, full professor of EU Law at the University of Pavia, that unfortunately for working commitments cannot be attending the meeting, but she sent us two questions for MEP Giegold. So the first one is, Mr. Giegold, do you agree on the Commission proposal of providing member states through a recovery plan grants and not only loans? And the second one is, do you trust in Italy's ability to use this money to improve its economic situation and to contribute to the stability of the euro area. So the first one is more general about the recovery plan and the negotiation and its composition, and the second one more centered on Italy and on the role of Italy and this situation regarding the use of this money that will come from European Union. So,
well, on the first question, I already answered it. I said the German Greens and the Greens in the European Parliament, we have promoted that the recovery plan should be based on grants and not on loans. Why? Because if countries such as Italy, but not only Italy, have already a high pile of public debt, it makes no sense to organize European solidarity on the basis of even more debt. So therefore, I agree, this should be done as Europe normally finances, spends its budget, mainly with grants and not with loans. So we agree with this, and we are pleased that the German Chancellor, together with President Macron, has finally given way to more European solidarity and investment, which the Christian Democrats have blocked for years in German politics, and that they are now moving, we welcome as German Greens. Do I trust Italy? Well, first of all, I do not trust any state, also not the German state. I think it is a big myth that Germany is hyper clean, efficient, and well organized, and Italy is a big chaotic mess. This is exactly the sort of stereotyping which makes no sense. We have corruption in Germany. We have a lot of money laundering in Germany, including by the Italian mafia. The Italian police regularly complains about the very decentralized German organization of fighting financial crime, because dirty money earned globally by the Italian mafia is laundered in Germany, and Germany doesn't do anything about it, or very little. On the other hand, we know Italy has deep structural problems. The division between North and South, and the lack of opportunity in parts of Italy, it is a true problem. So we should not trust any public body. Public bodies, like private bodies, need control by good functioning institutions, journalists, civil society. And therefore, of course, if we are spending money in order for the recovery, we have to control that it is used efficiently, but without stupid culturalizing. And of course, Italy has a problem of consistency of its own country. And that is part of the Italian problems. We have our own in Germany. We have also a division between East and West, which is still continuing. And therefore, of course, public money needs to be controlled. When more public money is spent, the controls have to become harder. And there I would only like to say to my friends in Italy one thing. There is a certain lack of logic to say you want more European solidarity, but no conditionality. When we are financing things together, we also have to set together the rules. But it is not about setting conditions for Italy. It is about European priorities, and they have to be enforced everywhere in Europe. So Germany should not subsidize dirty cars, coal, and things like this. And Italy, of course, when it receives public support by Europe, has to accept answers about the efficiency of the spending. You cannot have both European federalism and total autonomy. And this is a bit the populism I hear from the 5 stars in Italy too often. And this is something I do not like. And we as federalists should be very clear about this. We want European democracy, not a big European budget, which then is controlled by national actors. This cannot be a federalist position.
Thanks. Also because there is no very big European budget, unfortunately. I think we have a question of Professor Gui.
for your saying to us. I think this is important meeting today because I have very appreciated what you said. Well, last question, digital sovereignty. Well, I think, of course, we must protect privacy for everybody, but I think that there is a worse danger or menace. If, for instance, Mr. Trump one day switches off our or his satellites, can we be blackmailed by an external power? Or is he able to stop our web connections? I think yes, because all the powers or communication power is in the States. Isn't this an important reason to create a European system to protect our web, our connections? For instance, Mr. Trump has created a space force to protect its satellites from maybe Chinese attacks. Why didn't he create a NATO space force? So first, we should think about this. I think this is one of the reasons why Europe must be united politically. But also, I think that we should speak, have a dialogue with the not Trumpian Americans, with those who have a federalist culture, so that to create, for instance, President Obama proposed commercial treaties between Europe and the States. So to create a sort of political and institutional framework between the two sides of the Atlantic. I think that cooperation between Europe and the States could have a positive effect on the whole world. What do you think about these two questions? Defense and...
Well, first of all, I agree we have a question of sovereignty when it comes to future technology. There's, of course, on the one hand, the whole technological area which we need to tackle climate change, which will be the basis for industrial competitiveness in the future. So, and the same we have in the digital space. And while we still have in many sectors of green technologies a leading position in Europe, we have lost that position in the digital space. So, and that is, of course, a problem. And we need to regain economic competitiveness in these two areas. And in digitalization, as German Greens, we have said consistently that it is not simply a question, where is the production of digital goods and services located, but what is the value base of these? And there is the opportunity for Europe, because what we should build is digital competitiveness based on European values. What I mean with this is the following. Digital products, they have to be safe in times of cyber insecurity. Many of these products which we all use, they are not very safe. They are not safe for the industry using it. We have lost so much intellectual property, industrial intellectual property, because of digital attacks, cyber attacks. We have, they are not safe to use and not to be by foreign powers controlled. And also there is a lack of openness of the codes. So I believe there is a whole space of building digitalization based on the values of the social market economy, which that could then be taken out of the hands of a few global corporations, which are not accountable to democracy, but accountable to a limited number of shareholders. So, and such an offensive in the digital space could make European software, European digital solutions competitive globally and be consistent with the values of the social market economy. So this is, I think, what we should be the normative basis of a true digital union. That is where we should go. Your second question on the cooperation with America. Of course, we are in touch every day with our friends in America. Everybody who tries to shape globalization based on European values would be foolish not to stay in touch with those in America who share similar values, of course. But I have to say that what you were referring to, the TTIP agreement, is not part of this, because already Obama, although we like him in comparison to Trump a lot, and we all have to respect him as the first black president, but already Obama started turning his eyes away from Europe towards the Pacific area. And second, he also moved to unilateral actions on the global level, which we cannot approve. So think of a lot of attacks on individuals against international law, which has been done by military forces of the United States. So this was not based on our values of international law and the respect of international law. And TTIP, basically, I have to say the following. As Greens, we are in favor of bilateral trade and investment treaties, but with one big but. They have to be based on the values of the social market economy. Okay. What does this mean? When we have trade agreements, they must not mainly open up markets, they must open markets and at the same time set social and environmental standards. So what we want is openness for trade and investment, but then based on the famous level playing field. This is exactly what the Brexit negotiation is about, and everybody in Europe agrees. So we are saying, okay, we would like to have a zero quota, zero tariff approach with our British friends, but only if there is a level playing field when it comes to the norms, the social and environmental norms. But bizarrely, in particular also in the public debate in Italy, there's a lot of support for bilateral trade agreements with other countries like the United States without strong social and environmental norms. And there the position of the German Greens is very clear. We are in favor of open markets, but we want at the same time a level playing field when it comes to social and environmental rules. We are against, for instance, a EU-Mercosur agreement where our partners in Brazil cut the Amazon rainforests and then have the right, according to such investment and trade treaties, to import these goods to Europe, such as feedstock, which is produced on former land of the rainforest. This is not the values of the social market economy. This is based on free market liberalism, which cannot be the basis of a globalization for people and planet. And there we have a discourse, because I know in Italy, the criticism of these bilateral trade agreements, which was very strong in Germany, is often not understood. And the PD in the European Parliament is a strong supporter of these bilateral trade and investment agreements. They are all honorable federalists, but they are following the wrong economic model of free market capitalism, enshrined in these bilateral investment and trade agreements. And we want the social market economy of the European treaties and not a free market approach to the global financial and economic system. And there we, as German Greens, we have a different position than a lot of federalists in Italy. And that is a fruitful debate. But yeah, I tried to explain it a bit.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Giegold. Unfortunately, we run out of time. I was wondering if you have just a couple of minutes for a last question.
Yes, of course. In particular,
Okay.
if I may invite you to something at the same time, please, if you have not yet done it, please sign our appeal for solidarity in Europe and give us your names as first signatories. I share here again the link, and
Okay.
I would be honored by all your signatures and support. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the link. I would like to ask you a question, actually, going back to the initiative that you launched some time ago about this German and Italian dialogue. If we look now at what's happening in Brussels about the recovery fund, we see that the countries who oppose this fund are not German. They are northern countries, smaller countries that often, if we look at the recent past, hide themselves behind the big Germany. When there was like talks about austerity, about budget, about say no to some budgetary improvement, let's say. Do you think that Germany, who actually stand with the southern countries in this particular occasion, could work like a bridge between these two opposite souls, let's say, of Europe? So a more intransigent and pro strictness northern Europe, and I don't know, a more Keynesian, let's say, southern one. You think that Germany can help these two parts of Europe getting more close to each other?
Well, of course. Well, first, I have to say that our campaign and also the insistence of the German Greens have made a big difference and have helped to move the position of the German government. Because what may not be misrepresented is, despite the corona crisis, which normally makes the government strong, we remained at about 20% on the national level. This is, we received for the first time in the European elections more than 20% of the votes in Germany as Greens. And if you look at opinion polls, the majority of Germans is in favor of more financial solidarity. So civil society has pushed the German government into this position, because most Germans understand that our economic strength is built on the common market and the togetherness with the other European countries on a cultural and political level. So there is a majority in Germany who understands that we need to be more in solidarity. And when the government made that turnaround and offered 500 billion in grants with Macron, there was no populist counter-reaction. So our extreme right and also the anti-European parts of the left were not gaining. The pro-European center was very much strengthened in the opinion polls. So there was no negative counter-reaction. So, and we are proud of being part of that movement of a solidarity Germany and not of an egoistic Germany. The problem is, as you are saying, there are some countries in Europe where majorities are different, also in civil society. And the most stubborn case is, of course, the Netherlands. And I think there we need a bit straight talk, because the Netherlands, they are operating the largest tax haven in Europe, while at the same time lecturing everybody they should care about their own finances. This is really a double language. So the big corporations, they use mainly two large tax havens. It's Ireland and the Netherlands, and to a lesser extent then also Luxembourg. And but it's the Netherlands who deny financial solidarity, while at the same time making it difficult for all member states in the EU to tax their corporations. And there, of course, Germany has to try with diplomacy to build bridges. But I have to say that the German voice is not the most popular in the Netherlands. So the Dutch, we are not loved in the Netherlands. Cynics would say Germans are loved in hardly any country, but at least we are sometimes respected. And in the Netherlands, one has to say, look, these 4 countries, which call themselves frugal, but in fact are greedy, these greedy 4, they cannot block European progress. So at a certain point, one has to also to tell them, we are 90% and you are 10% and we will move forward. But then you will not profit from the stronger integration to the same extent. And therefore, I hope that Madame Merkel, she is very experienced. Everybody knows her very well. She knows how to play the games. This is good. So she has to deliver during the German presidency. But in the end, if she doesn't, we also should use some civil society pressure on this double language, in particular in the Netherlands, because they are the toughest of all the opponents. And yeah, and I think we can attack that position. And our Dutch Greens do this.
Thanks very much. Let's hope for the best. So, Mr. Giegold, thanks very much for your participation to this webinar. We really hope to see you again in our University for Europe initiative. Thanks for everybody for being with us, and I think that we are done for today.
Just a Latin word from our friend Rossi. Salve. Gracias.
Grazie a voi. Grazie. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
He knows Latin. He knows Latin, so we can.